All right, so this happened just 2 months ago in Boston.
In Boston.
Where I parked my car over there near the harbor.
The harbor. I'm not buying the bar.
Let's go to the bar there.
Get them going on the beach.
Oh.
And a shower.
Shower. San Francisco.
Julie's my boy.
Alright, so let's see if the volume is up.
There's action certificate since the late 1980s.
We asked the fire escape expert.
Fire safety inspector. People were hurt when the escape that collapsed in the friendly neighborhood. 2 people were hurt when they fell all the way to the ground. And city records show that the building's owner hasn't filed a required safety inspection certificate since the late 1980s.
We asked a fire escape expert to take a look, and he says this could be just the tip of the iceberg. It was just before midnight Sunday that some of the gratings on this fire escape on the back of 47.
Can you make it bigger? Expand the window?
Two of them were hurt when they crashed to the ground.
I see that there's a missing bracket, single bracket that used to be tied to the rail, and it gave way, and I believe that's why pieces of
That expert again, huh?
Cisco Vanessas is the founder of the National Fire Escape Association. We asked him to look at the aftermath of the collapse. You can see where the bracket he's talking about used to be, and you can see the spot on the wall where it
that
was
looks good.
attached. He blames rust caused by a lack of maintenance.
The rust is what eats the steel, and I believe, based on what I can see right now, she rotted right at the building.
Why wasn't that caught? There is no evidence the fire escape was inspected and safety certified.
Right now, a lot of these fire escapes, if they're not being properly inspected and repaired, what happens is we have problems like this.
Building owners in Boston are required
Be
to have
attentive
fire
to the
escape
firemen that-
certified every 5 years and file that certificate with the city. But when we searched the database for Boston's Inspectional Services Department, we found no certificates on file, at least since the late 1980s. A violation of building inspector has now cited the owner. The inspector's report orders the owner to, quoting now, provide a fire escape and fire balcony affidavit forthwith.
There's more here on the other side that I can show you.
Just a short walk down the alleyway, Vanessa's found this fire escape with holes in the brick where support are spring.
That's good.
Great core support, not even tied into the building.
Fill it with mortar.
There's gaping holes this big.
He says it's not uncommon for owners to skip inspections or for private inspectors to gloss over problems.
Because a lot of people, they collect a fee, $200, $300 for a piece of paper. Nobody's checking. So what happens is, these are landmines ready to explode.
We tried to contact the owner of the building where this fire escape collapsed to see if he wanted to comment, but 2 voicemails and an email have gone unanswered. It sounds like this problem is a bit more widespread than we would all like to think.
We'll keep talking about it. Well, we have much more still ahead.
News at 6 starts right now.
So the question is, it's only been 100 years, here and there. And so what were 4 kids doing out on a fire escape?
Smoking.
No.
Watching a parade in Boston. The Celtics parade.
There you go.
That was a long
with
time
that,
ago.
the most important part now is that whether we like it or not, it's coming back into use, but for a different vice now, you know what I'm saying? So you guys would use this parachute once every 5 years, every 10 years if the building had a fire of any kind, every 20 years. Now, if I'm smoking 1 time a day, 3, 5, or 10, right? To go out there and have a cigarette or something else, right? And if I have friends visiting, where are we going to go? Out the window. And so, like I said, that was the case I decided that 4 people, 2 jumped back into the window, 1 fell 15, the girl fell 30. So, we'll get into liability. All right, so when we left off before we had to move vehicles, anybody got their cars moved, everything all set? All right, so all kinds of fire escapes. I want to make sure that we're talking about the iceberg. Black fire escapes make up this much of the iceberg. What's below that? Wood decks, cement decks, any external area of refuge that they can wait for you to save them must be inspected, right? So that's the code. Now look at this. How many hotels we have, how many balconies are being built out there. Berkeley had one of these do what? Because it wasn't load tested. So it's external, right? If it's subject to the weather, what's it subject to? Inspection. Not only a load test, but a lateral load test on the rails, because how do you smoke? You put your butt on it and you do what? And if that rail lets go, what happens? Okay?
You might want to stop.
So this is the bottom of the iceberg, below the water that you guys, so stick to fire escapes now, but guess what you're going to play with in the next 3 to 5 years? You're going to start getting after the external woods structures. Hotels, you guys got a lot of the older hotels where they have walkways to the rooms with a metal stair. So every hotel that has a walkway up to a cross, now we inspect the ladders. Do we have to inspect these walking platforms? It all depends. Are they covered, not covered? Sometimes they're part of the envelope. Who decides that? The architect does, right? And then who does he confirm with? The H shape. Okay? Because it might be part of an envelope study. Parking garages, right? You guys got some, industrial refineries or anything going on?
Richmond.
In case you guys have fire, guess what you have to go up?
The cereal place.
You think those things have been inspected in 100 years?
The staircases and the cranes.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, that's a good one.
Tip of the iceberg, right? Catwalks over roofs. This right here is for AC units on roofs. But they need to be inspected. By the way, you guys are all aware that anything over the NFEA, not the NFEA, the OSHA snuck in a law in 2017 that you guys might not be aware of. The whole roof must have all their roof, what's it called, anchor points load tested every 5 years and every year. You guys aware of that? Yeah, they snuck that in. So let me very briefly on that one. You guys will love this one. So in 2017, OSHA says after a 25-year study, says, you know what? We have a problem. Under new construction in the past 10 years, we've lost 10 people in fatalities. But over renovations of buildings, so the same contractors who build new ones have a great spotless record because there's guidelines, wires, everybody's harnessed. But on restoration of existing buildings, guess how many people have died in the past 25 years? Or 10 years? 10,000 people. So they said, you know what we need? If you're going to get on a roof, you need to have a roof barrier wall 6 feet from the edge. You guys aware of that? Check your OSHA, it's an OSHA code requirement that the roof must have a railing. Otherwise, when I visit a roof, I'm supposed to wear a full harness. I'm supposed to tie off to an anchor point, which is 5,000 pounds, and there's several anchor points all over the roof lines, so I can just go and look at edges of something and do anything. And if on the roof I have additional roofs that include elevators and stuff, and those are 10 feet or more, they need a rail around it. Otherwise, I need to wear an anchor. And guess what they also did in this new code? They brought the owner's responsibility into this also, holding the owners accountable for allowing vendors to go out on these roofs without proper PPE. So I think it's a certain height story. Is it 7 stories or whatever? And this came into the guys who do window washing. Because the main push was also on the window washers, because guess what they used to tie off to? Chimneys. Buildings around an elevator shaft or something. And guess what these buildings, so a lot of these buildings have to retrofit now and put in anchor points. And so you can't go on a roof unless you have a harness. And it says right there on the door when you first go up. So a lot of things have changed, but sometimes they change in whispers, like So I learned about this, because I didn't know about it, when I was teaching a Boca class in Baltimore, of all places. Don't mention Baltimore, they beat us a few days ago, but. So we talk about signage, we're talking about all kinds of things that are out there. So right now, let's stick to the top of the pyramid, and which is just the black fire escapes. Why? The rest will follow along later, right? So besides catwalks on roofs that you got to examine, about handicap ramps, must be inspected. Because they're external, they're a means of egress, they're an inclined stair, which is a ramp, made of wood or steel or cement. It's a part of an egress. If I'm getting off over here, I gotta come down here, I gotta inspect this. Who inspects it? 5-year. After a 5-year, can the 1 years do a visual for 4 more years? Feel very comfortable about a 1 year after a 5 years has been properly done? All right, so catwalks.
Depends on the property.
How about this? What are these called? Walkways, bridges. If they're on private property, who inspects them? Part of a 5-year. All exterior steel and wooden stairways, balconies, bridges. What is this? Got it? All right. What's this?
Oh, a
Got a few of
nightmare?
these in your area?
Oh my God.
So are spirals a means of egress? If they were allowed, can you do a spiral today as a means of egress?
No.
Do I have to certify old ones that got somehow pushed in?
Yes.
And by the way, I can't put a spiral in today if I meet certain requirements. There's no space, there's no room. I can't get anything else other than a spiral. Can I get special permission from the fire and the building department, primarily the building, to put in a spiral?
AMMR, yep.
Yes, the answer is yes. And if I can't get in the spiral, can I get the building department to let me put back in a ladder? I have no room. Answer is yes. Got it? So under special conditions, very rare, will they allow you to downgrade to a spiral or to a ladder. Otherwise, everybody falls into the same rules. Full staircases to the ground. See all these everywhere, right? And if you're coming off of 5 feet, 10 feet off the ground, this is your second means of egress. Pre-existing non-conforming? How about these? You got a few of these in the back of some of your buildings?
Yes.
Wood structures? In Oakland?
Every property on the hill.
Guess what? It's a fire escape. Must be inspected under a 5-year rule. So you see how much is on the water, guys, that you're not even thinking about? So we did a project here in down by the lake, and 2 metal fire escapes on one side, but on the back, wood structure. So are all exterior steel and wooden stairs, are they covered under this Oakland program of the 1 year and the 5 years? They're about to be, right? All exterior steel and wooden stairways, balconies, bridges, cement stairs. How about San Francisco, too? All exterior steel and wooden stairs?
I would say so, yes.
In the 604 it says that they listed out metal decks, this thing, railings, and then they mentioned fire escapes way down the line. So all of this, so they watered down the 604 a lot. In San Francisco, it's a 2-part inspection. It's an interior and exterior that they now just started doing the exterior. And some people only do the interior, but they don't do the exterior. And you guys need to get that back under control to say it's a full. If you guys want to have the interior and exteriors done, that's a decision that's going to be held at a higher level. Okay? Wood. Everybody understand this? Ready? Ready for some fun stuff now? How about the decks, right? You know that decks collapse, right? In Chicago, how many people died on a deck collapse? 27 people died on a deck collapse. How about this? You guys know what this is? It's a slidescape in Elizabeth, New Jersey, on a 1905 building. You open up these doors. Every floor has these doors. You open it up and you throw yourself down the sausage tube. No potato sacks, no nothing. And it's still an active building. This is an approved means of egress. Slidescapes were an approved means of egress. So when you certify it, you gotta slide down the thing, and it starts up
How about
there.
if you get
So
stuck?
way up there, it comes down in a corkscrew over here. And then down here, it goes, makes a right-hand turn, and it shoots out of a straight slide. You hit this metal door with your feet. There's a big paddle. You're supposed to hit that thing with your feet, and the door goes open, or your head, depending. But in case there's anybody that's oversized and it clogs this tube, and you got a nice fire going, you know what you got? Rotisserie here. We got a sausage made up of all international flavors, whatever you like. Sausage. An approved means of egress. Throw yourself down. No lights. This is dark. You know, that's just a light, but that's and it's all tin. It's a tin metal.
One of our dummies, little 160
Okay.
pound.
They used to allow these guys. A lot of the military bases used to, but this used to be in the 1950s, because they came up with all kinds of crazy stuff for fire escapes. And then they just started saying, you know, that's not such a great idea. But this slidescape was in the code for a while. I think into the 50s or 60s. Got it? It was fun to be an adult back in the day, you know what I'm saying? How about this one at Rutgers University?
That's not a pole. Oh, that's a pole.
All right, and this is not even at a fire academy of any kind. This is a building in Rutgers University. So for the wannabe students who want to be in the fireman program, guess what? Drink and practice, drink and practice. Approved means of egress.
The old ankle breaker.
Got it? So there's some crazy stuff out there. And you think Rutgers would say, you know, I think we're going to change this. It's still there. All right? So, we're going to talk about how the questionnaire, and Alan, why don't you pop up here? Let's bring out some of your sheets that you have. A lot of the questionnaires out there didn't exist until we started the National Fire Escape Association. So even when you look at a Reg 4 down at LA, this is online. It's the same question, but this is a 1 year only. But when you read some of these questions, they started crossing over ever so slightly into structural questions. So, and we had a conversation with John Novella down there about that, because we had a class for these Reg 4 guys who didn't want to step over that line anymore. So what was that?
Yeah, so the questions that I put in here, this was really just a mock-up. It's not an official document, but
This is a suggestion.
this is based upon LA's Reg 4 annual inspections. And we looked at this, and we saw some concerns that we had, and there were concerns that came up. In reality, we mentioned the electrocution case that we were working with in LA. So what happened was that LA does not have a 5-year. They have the Reg 4, and this is all the questions that they would ask. Nothing in there about any power lines or anything like that. And so the Reg 4 guys went out, went through, probably passed everything or not. Nothing about anything with power lines, and there was the electrocution. So actually the Reg 4 guys were brought in to the lawsuit. We were sort of talking them out of bringing them in. And so that's why we were pushing for the 5 years as well. Because this just does not go far. As you saw in the video, a lot of these questions, and we kind of edited ours to say the main word that we added for the annual is that things appear to be okay. We're not certifying that it's okay. I, as an architect, am not certifying that they're okay. But we're looking at it, and just from our opinion, we're saying it appears to be in good use.
So if Alan was an owner, and he says, it appears to me, remember, it already had a 5-year. And the owner says, it appears. the agent for the owner says it appears. The approved vendor that's going to do it says it appears. But there's been a 5-year already. He already knows there's a 5 because one of the first questions we have here that they mandate down in LA is that we have to notify the fire department that there's a test coming 2 days prior to a test that they may or may not have to witness. And a lot of times they never witness the exam, but they just, you have to. So I think it's mandatory that you guys for the next 5 years, if there's going to be a test that we just have to notify that we're going to perform a test. And whether anybody can do it like we did with you guys, we just said, hey, there's a test, if you want to witness it, great. And 2 guys showed up. Got it? But the second question is going to be about, is it pre-existing, is there any non-conforming questions? But when you look on here, and this is what we didn't like, look at all the testing, the releasing of the ladders down here, but there's a couple of questions in here. There are no attachments, which is, landings are firmly attached to the structure, to the building. Is that a 1-year guy's answer or a structural guy's answer? So they made, LA has changed, they never had this before, just so you know. There was no questionnaire. You just kind of created your own opinion. And then they never asked us for any input on this. They just created these questions, but they straddled the 1 year and the 5 year. And once the 1-year guys realized how much liability they were taking on, and some of these questions created a structural question.
And that's right. Actually, the first question we're asking is, and LA does not have this, is there a 5-year inspection requirement? Because that can give you more comfort as an owner or an agent that, you get, oh, okay, this was 5, it was certified 2 years ago. I could be pretty comfortable as an owner, and I can look at it and say, yeah, I maintained it, I painted it, need a little bit of paint. But if you're an inspector, a Reg 4 inspector, who's not licensed as an architect or an engineer, he's got some liability out there, and we've seen that. So that's why we're adding, we're saying, that's the first thing. If there's no 5-year on file, there shouldn't be an annual. We want that 5-year first, and then you can be comfortable. Okay, I can go out, I can go through my list of questions here. I can look, and if I still might have a concern, like Cisco said, it may have been hit by a fire truck, and we see damage. No one would know that, 5-year guys. So that's kind of, we're all doing little checks and balances among all of us to get these questions answered.
And on the Reg 4, by the way, on the case that we're talking about the electrocution, that they was for $55 million. So we were actually working for the city of LA. It was reduced down to $20 million. But when we did the 5-year examination on the same building, that they had a 1-year, there was 2 fire escapes. They had 2 companies do exam. They certified both as 1 years. We get there, we fail them both as 5 years, and it caused all kinds of confusion. They're like, what do you mean? Even though the fire escapes activity had nothing to do with the electrocution, it was just that the cable was close enough so that somebody from the fire escape went over and grabbed it. And I mean, it had to be a hard lean over, but that was still the case. It's already settled, but they took it from 55 to 20 million out of the pocket of LA. The insurance was not involved.
The owner of the building was.
But the owner of the building who created, so there was some complicity of that, so that's a different part of the case, but they in turn sued backwards because some other things were going on, but still 20 million bucks. Okay, so let's move on to so we basically found the flaws here, and we created the 1 year and the 5 year, right? So this has gone through many transformations. So all the tests that are out there in the U.S., I've created, and I've helped City of Seattle, Portland, LA, Lowell, and they've used our questions, or they've created questions from our questions. But look at Lowell's 1 year right here. This is the 5 year. Let's see if I have the 1 year here. Yeah, here's the 1 year. So they have the first 25 questions, right? Covers every aspect, but then look at the 1 year. And this is all the owner has to say. The bolts and support are not damaged or rusted, pass or fail, right? Paint is in good condition and all moving parts look like they're working. 3 questions. So we turned it into 15 questions, but this is how simple it can be, the 1 year. Okay, because you're gonna have a lot more confidence in a 1 year if a 5 year is sitting there with a tag on it. Okay, so let's move forward and we'll get to the questionnaire or the one that you have. So in the confidence test, in the confidence test, if you guys open up your book, in the inside of the confidence test is one of our typical confidence tests. Can you go online to National Firescape Association, tap in confidence test? There's a standard blank form with no names on it, and you can just put your name on top. So that's a typical 25-point question. So these questions are on the Oakland, sheet and on the San Francisco sheet. And it covers all the codes, so in our documentation includes all 4 codes. It'll include IFC, IBC, NFPA, OSHA. Okay? We're gonna talk about some of these questions, but this is another city we work with, Portland. But here's the thing, so just so you think, right, that you've got everything figured out, we've been working with Portland fire prevention for 10 years plus, right? All of a sudden, guess who took it back? When load testing became an issue up there. Fire or building? Building pulled it in and said, hey, we've got some ideas to generate. So you're going to need a permit to load test fire escapes. Because it generates a... And then they said, oh, and we're going to help you with the policy. And you see the word welding? We told them, why are you guys putting welding back here? We just had 10 years worth of classes. Welding on fire escapes shall be completed by a person holding a current American Welding Society AWS certification for a type of welding that is being done. So, they tell you what kind of nuts and bolts. Oh, they want a very special bolt. They want you to use stainless steel bolts. You really need stainless steel bolts? Is the problem with the bolt or a problem with the corrosion and the expansion that will rip apart a steel bolt, a golden bolt, a platinum bolt, a cast iron bolt, a piece of wood? What's the problem in fire escapes? Rust jacking or the bolt? That destroys any bolt you put in there. So, and then by the way, there's a load testing thing here. So if you want to go to FIR 208 Fire Escapes Oregon, oh my God, they wrote it all out. So they created, somebody asked me, is there rules anywhere that we can follow? They created their own rules. And by the way, the paint is hammerite. They want you to do all kinds of things. You remove paint out to bare metal, use a hammerite, which is a 2-part epoxy, some stuff that you have to wear a gas mask. Like, what do you guys, who took control of it? Building department. Who did we talk to? Fire. And then to add insult to injury, even if you fully refurb your fire escape, which is other evidence of strength, what do they still want you to do? So any incentive to fully refurb fire escapes in Portland now? No. Go right to load test, right? Fix whatever minimally needs to fix and just spend my money on load test. Oh, by the way, 100 pounds per square foot or 200 pounds per square foot? 200 pounds per square foot. So they don't want 10 people, they want 20 in a 5x5. They don't want 5 firemen, they want 10 firemen in a 5x5 wearing 300 pounds apiece. So unless we're traveling elephants through this thing, why would you do it at 200? Which is now on a 100-year-old wall doing what? Destroying a wall, and that happened to us. So they have to have a special company load testing, and we videotaped. I said, I got to videotape this crazy water tank thing and all this other stuff, right? But I actually videotaped them where our fire escape passed, but the building cracked. So they destroyed the building wall. Now the owner has to fix this 100-year-old wall. It's like, well, how did it break? Load testing. So the guy's on us like, oh, you guys broke my wall. I said, oh, no, you're a crazy city. Load tested a 100-year-old building, not to the standard, you know what I'm saying, but to double that. So it's like them taking 1-ton trucks and filling it with 2 tons of sand. And that's the test. You drive it in, yeah, lights work, everything good. All right, load it up with sand. 2 tons, and then when your shocks blow out and your springs give way, right? And you're holding, and it's just holding on, you passed, and you drive it on this thing. It's a 1-ton truck. Why are you load testing with? It's crazy. So, because sometimes the building department, which they saw, and in order to do the work, what do you need?
permit.
So you need a permit to do the work, you need a permit to do the load testing, you need a structural engineer overseeing everything, and then you need to load test it no matter what work you did to it. So it can quickly get out of, so they screwed it up for 100 years and Portland said, you know what? We can do this
200 years.
in the next 100 years, we're going to do it much better than the first 100. 300 pounds. So guys, it's out there, so let's get back to, so there's a lot of questions out there, guys. See, annual checklists and stuff like that, so we've put quite a few out there, and there's variations of this and a lot of these, and then they want the tag. This is in Portland. That's just tells you the year was inspected. And it's 5 years later. What we want, and then we're going to talk about the individual questions, is that upon inspection, Farscape passes, just needs a load test, perform a load test on it, you put a tag on this, it says when it was inspected, it says when the next, any issues when you guys do your yearly walkthroughs, that whether or not that building's safe. In the middle of the night when the firemen are coming in a smoky situation, and they see white, and it says pass, do you think they gotta wait for apparatus, or can they just get right on the fire escape and get on it? So if all of a sudden the fire escape has a problem with it and it needs repairs, first thing you do is make it functional, right? Triage in the battlefield. And then while it's being repaired over the next 15, 30, 60, or 90 days, what do you put on it? But this yellow says that it's under repair, which means it's still functional, not certifiable. And then we get to some of your train wrecks, and what do we have? They put a red on it. Treads are falling, nobody can use it. How does that help your fire department? Do not go. How does that help your fire marshal or your individual inspector? You can negotiate with them and say, listen, we either gonna have a fire watch on your building, but we need to keep everybody off your fire escape. Or we're gonna put in some scaffolding on your building. Or once you have emergency procedures done to your fire escape, to at least make it functional so we can take this and turn it into a yellow. So your first phase through Oakland is to fix fire escapes or to get them into one of these colors. Because a few will meet this color. We saw one of those yesterday, right? It needed very minor work, so it didn't pass, so it's technically a yellow going to a white. But how important is this going to be for every fire escape in your city? So are we really fixing fire escapes, or are we identifying all existing fire escape stock in the city of Oakland? And it's either going to be a red or a yellow. Which ones you attack first? Reds. Get them all into yellows. 3 to 5 years later, and everybody will fight you. Oh my God, everybody will fight you. Cities are going to fight you. Councilmen are going to fight you. Mayor's going to fight you. People who own thousands of buildings in your city are going to fight you. Because they've let this go. So let's get this to, this is what the tags are in Seattle. 19 by 11.
Big tag.
Big tag. So what it looks like, permanently affixed to any fire escape 7 to 10 feet off the ground. Think your firemen have any problem identifying a good, useful fire escape?
Yes.
Can we start retraining your firemen to use fire escapes that have white on them? Will it take 3 to 5 years for them to get the hint?
It
Can you do it in
depends.
3 to 5 months? But you start putting tags, so now it's mandatory that all fire protection equipment have a tag on it. Is this a fire protection piece of equipment?
Yes.
Supposed to have a tag as part of your code?
Yep.
Oh, but there's a tag, that's what they look like. Make up your own or utilize one of these. It's just a tag, it's just some form of system, right? So now let's take a look at, because we're going to go into, you know, the questionnaire. You have the Oakland one, you want to pull it out? Let's do the 1 year and the 5 year. But the question is, who inspects fire escapes, right? We'll tell you what people think. Engineers inspect. The code says so. Good or bad engineers can inspect fire escapes? Good or bad architects can inspect fire escapes? some people believe you guys inspect fire escapes. Do you guys inspect fire escapes?
Nope.
Well, you better stop telling the people you're writing violations to, because they're telling us, you were there, you inspected their fire escape, and there's just one broken tread that needs to be fixed, and that I should sign off on it as soon as that one tread is done. Tell your people that it's a third-party inspection. And fire escape inspector. So now let's define fire escape inspectors, design professionals or others, right? What further defines whether you're a 5-year or a 1-year? Insurance, first of all, do you want somebody that doesn't have the right insurance inspecting your fire escapes? So they have to have minimum insurance, plus some of them will carry errors and omissions insurance, right? That's above and beyond, okay? But that basically says that if they miss something and a tenant or a fireman gets hurt, what's covered? Insurance. If a 1-year guy is inspecting fire escapes and somebody gets hurt on it, what do you got? You got a lawsuit, but is their insurance going to pay or disclaim? Disclaim it, because he's basically, it's outside his scope. If he's repairing a fire escape as an inspector, can you inspect and repair? Nope, got to pick one. So you either inspect fire escapes and somebody else repairs, or you can repair fire escapes because somebody else inspected and you're just following orders. Can you do both? So, it's a tough one. Have they been? Right? So let's go into the 1-year and the 5-year. You guys got the Oakland one out. San Fran, yours, Oakland and San Fran is the exact same thing. We just put Oakland's, they have a 604 and a 908 ordinance, right? Came out in '92, we were told. But basically it's the same. So let's talk about the one, the annual. Let's, you got your copy. So look at some of the questions. The very simple questions in the beginning. What's the first question?
Have you notified the party?
Right. So that means you want us to notify you or not? Because LA requires that as part of our license. You guys think it's a good idea or not? This thing saves lives and firemen. You think it's important in the next 3 to 5 years that we let you guys know that somebody's coming out to look at something? You don't have to witness it. It's just nice.
It also opens up the paperwork that they can track, rather than us just going out there.
Yeah, and it tells you that the violation is being acted upon.
And it
So.
is, I inspected it, this is what I found wrong, or it passed, and they can keep track of it.
So this is just a 1-year, right? What's the next question now?
Fire escape has current 5-year inspection certification and is ready for testing.
So that's either he's going to see a tag on the fire escape, or he's going to ask the owner for what? A copy of the 5-year. And the owner says, I don't know and I don't remember. What can they do? Can they call you and ask for the 5-year if there is one? Because you have to call you anyway to tell you he's doing an inspection, right? So the 1-year guys can call the city for a copy, or the owner, or they can basically, can they take a snapshot of that thing and say there's an existing tag already on the thing? And here's the company that did it, because all the information. The year was inspected, the next due date, who inspected it, name and phone number. Think that's all we need? Pretty simple, right? Okay.
Also, it gives you some comfort to know that it's safe to go on there and inspect.
So now another 1-year question. Again, Alan wouldn't be doing 1 years. This is for an owner. Not licensed, can be somebody that's just in the business. Because you guys don't even have a license for a fire escape inspector. LA does. Nobody, you guys want to start accepting LA tester regular? No. So currently, a lot of these people who are doing this may have other licenses, right? I think Mazzy, for example, might have a fire protection license in extinguishers and such. Would he be considered another for you and you guys? You think he's in that field, in that trade? Would he be a qualified other?
For if he's doing extinguishers?
No, he's in the fire protection business. So if a fire protection company showed up and said, hi, I'm going to be doing the 1 years, I want to be considered another, and he speaks with Manny.
Yeah, Manny says so.
Right, because he's just doing the 4-year look-sees, right? Because there's always a 5, because the first question he asks is there a 5-year? There is one. Okay, next question.
fire escape appears to have access to the roof for fire personnel per code.
Okay? So that's important because sometimes we get fire escapes that no longer have ladders to the roof because somebody took it off. Those fire escape ladders are not for us, they were for the firemen. That's how you guys get access onto the roof. They removed it because there was break-ins going on. You guys want to know about those? Okay, next one.
Fire escape appears to have access to grade and a clear path to the public way per code.
So it's not trapped in a box. There's a gate that lets me go to, what's considered a public way?
Road.
Sidewalk. If I need a key, or I have to climb a fence, or I have to ask a neighbor's dog to let me through.
Yeah, it also gets back to when we check with the AHJ. There's been many times when we'll inspect the fire escape and get down to, San Francisco, we can get down to the bottom, and there's no way to go.
Yep.
Someone that either,
We have a lot of
a neighbor had either built a building next to it that wasn't checked. So we come across that all the time. That's kind of why.
And it's important too, we know why it was taken away, right? Everybody here knows why every ladder was taken away, right? Right? We're just putting it back now. We'll figure it, you know, things have changed, so we need to get back to a public way. So, we know why it's not there anymore, so don't sell us any other story, because every fire escape was built all the way to a public way. They removed it for a reason, but now things have changed. Let's take care of your security issues a different way by not removing the ladder, because the people needed to get out, firemen needed to get in. Next question.
Platforms appear ready for its intended use with no apparent visual damage, suspect areas or internal rust.
So again, owner, agent, or other, is this a good, easy question? Okay, next question.
Fixed stair components, connections, and clips appear ready for their intended use with no apparent damage, suspect areas or internal rust.
Simple, this is an opinion of the owner. Right? And there's a good 5-year on it, so can he make that kind of decision? Says, it looks all right to me. I just paid money to have a 5-year done on it. Can that owner, agent, or others, you know, say it looks pretty good?
Yeah.
Because we're going to make them test it. We're going to make them use it. So he needs to answer these questions because he's about to use it. Go ahead. Next one.
All rails and connections appear to be in good order, ready for their intended use with no apparent damage, suspect areas or internal rust, and are ready for a 200-pound lateral load test.
So this is probably going to be one of the top because we've done Marion drafts. You see, this belongs to the 5-year because there's no lateral load test. It's already been done in the 5-year or other evidence of strength. So it's ready for its intended use. That's what it should. It shouldn't have that 200-pound lateral load test because that's a question on our 5-year. Next one.
All window and/or door egress openings appear to be in proper working order, ready for their intended use.
Okay, that doesn't mean he has to physically open every door and open every window. He has to just say that it looks like they're in good order. We did that yesterday, right, on the building? We didn't, and one of the windows was sticky? What's that issue? Is that a fire escape issue or is that a maintenance issue? For the interior when you're doing your other walk around. So maybe you guys will start saying, hey, I just need to make sure all the windows open and closed and all the doors open to the fire escape. But we're outside, we don't see broken windows, duct tape, we don't see, it looks like it's functioning. Next question.
Fixed stair components, connections, and clips appear ready for their intended use with no apparent damage, suspect areas or internal rust. Walls are structurally sound and properly maintained.
Okay, so it appears, meaning the wall's not bulging, and again, this already had a 5-year, he's just looking for something out of the ordinary. Major damage, or if this bulges and stuff, he would basically stop here and say, hey, I gotta get back to the 5-year because somebody didn't look at this, like I just did on that 5-year. Remember I did the 5-year on the first video you saw? I said, who signed off on this on the 1-year? This thing doesn't even pass a 5-year. How can they pass it on 1 year? Because he wasn't even doing a 1 year. He was collecting signing a piece. Because who's watching? Nobody. He was pushing paper along. Okay, next question.
Fire escape has no obstructions and egress is clear to public way for code.
That's simple. There's no trash cans, no bicycles. There's nothing. Is that important for you guys to have an unobstructed fire escape? No potted plants? We're doing your job.
And obstruction is right in the code, any building code.
Right, and it's right in the code. You can't obstruct a means of egress. So we'll say yes or no. No, this guy's got a ton of plants up here. You know, you have to like wiggle like this and wiggle like that. He's got And down below, he's got 16 bicycles and he's collecting trash, recycled cans on the very bottom. Next question?
Well, then we get into the actual ladders and stairs.
So,
Again, LA, we don't call it inspections, but inspection, testing and operations.
yeah, so hold on a second. So this is just testing and operation. So we've already walked everything. So remember, we've gone over the roof, come all the way down. So that's very important that they're testing it for the firemen. When we go up and over the roof, who are we testing for? Firemen. When we come down the whole stair, who are we testing for? Tenants. Right? This is a walkthrough. Okay? This is what the 1 years do. They do a walkthrough. Now they've hit the final piece of it, and that's either the ladder or the cantilever. Now what's the test?
Right, so the first one, we're just describing what the ladder is. It's fixed, balance weighted, hydraulic, scissor, fold out, or other. Pretty self-explanatory. We don't have a lot of, like in LA, there's not a lot of coordinating scissor ladders.
So you might have a slide ladder. So you might hit other, and those three of the sliding ones.
Yeah.
You have to make a note here. Telescoping.
Fire escape mechanism was dropped 2 times, operated easily, and appears to have been properly serviced. A lot of these are we're doing annual services. So when I go out on a 5-year, I'm looking for that sticker that says that it was serviced. Even, almost like saying when